assumptions or side comments, if at all. Even though the scholarly work and the bioethical debates were replete with references to secular humanist values, I could find little analysis about what secular assumptions or rules were shaping these humanist debates and practices. Cryonics seemed to be challenging the predominant medical, legal, and scientific views of death. Yet cryonicists were themselves reductive materialists, working with the same assumptions as most medical professionals and researchers. They were suggesting that if reductive materialism is true, that is, if your mind or self or individual identity is reducible to your brain states, then logically you ought to be able to preserve that brain state if you had the proper technology to do so. One way to preserve that brain state, they further reasoned, was to cryopreserve it, just as other biological matter, even if only simple forms of it, was being frozen and then reused. There is much more to what cryonicists were saying and doing, but what I had figured out up to then was that in a couple of buildings across the United States, a few mostly white, mostly Western, mostly male, mostly atheist folks were suspended in liquid nitrogen, not dead, but not alive, waiting to be reanimated in a distant future. They had been legally declared dead, with death certificates issued by the state's medical examiner, but they were not considered dead by their custodians, the cryonicists who were storing and taking care of their frozen bodies in Detroit and Phoenix. This smelled like anthropological territory, for sure. Aside from a small book by a sociologist who had looked at their organizational structures and disputes in the 1970s, nothing with academic heft had been written about this phenomenon. But before I committed to the topic, I felt I needed to at least meet a cryonicist and get a sense of the ethnographic viability of the project beyond articles and websites. Maybe I was making too much of all this. Maybe there was nothing to see. No there. Online I came across someone from California, Christine Peterson, who was about to give a talk at a business conference at Princeton. Her name led me to the website of the Foresight Institute, an organization having to do with something called nanotechnology. She had set up the institute with her husband, at the time, Eric Drexler. At the time, all this felt beside the point to me, really. I didn't realize how nanotechnology had any role to play in the game of death in the secular. Neither did I realize that Drexler was recognized as the father of nanotechnology. All that mattered was that Peterson was a cryonicist. I emailed her to see if she would agree to meet up with me. I was on the New Jersey Transit to Princeton Junction the next evening. My field notes on the train innocently referred to the upcoming Malinovskian ethnographic moment of first contact with a real-life cryonicist. Peterson was a quiet, smart, and gentle white woman, a little distant and wary too, as anyone should be when meeting an anthropologist. We sat for dinner at her hotel restaurant, and I watched as she removed a white paper napkin from her purse and quietly unfolded it. She arranged the dozen or more pills inside in an array laid out flat on the napkin. It reminded me of a Damien Hirst installation. I asked, and she said they were supplements. Each one had some purpose, some function, some benefit that would help her remain optimized and healthy for longer. I didn't know it then, but I would find out that supplements are an important part of longevity regimens, made most famous perhaps by the celebrity inventor Ray Kurzweil, who in big magazine features about him would say that his dozens of supplements a day kept him younger than his biological age. What's more, a supplements manufacturer, the Life Extension Foundation, is a major backer of cryonics and other life extension ventures. I remember being surprised that Peterson ordered a burger, which she ate delicately with knife and fork, while pacing her supplement intake. I began to ask my first questions about cryonics. I asked about death and suspension, and what it meant that people were not dead